Hey everyone, it's Kong again with another episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'll be presenting high-level overviews using these 4 criteria to help you decide whether these 2 banners are worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. How these characters fit into your team, whether they unlock any bonds for other characters, what kind of content they get used for, and their future availability. As I mentioned, this time we've got 2 banners to cover. The first features Luna and Dieharte, and the second features Rozalia and Werner. It's also worth noting that there's a trade-in mechanic that's unique to this event. Normal banners give you a space-time essence when you summon an on-banner character you already have at 6 stars. You can then trade that character's shards for 50 shards of another on-banner character. Notoriously, those 50 shards aren't enough to summon a new character from scratch, so you need to use them to dupe up another character you have, or else to do this trade multiple times to get someone new. In a way, it's whale insurance. It protects people who summon 7 copies of the same unit from losing their marbles. Anyway, these banners ain't like that. On these Lovers banners, you get a CP token whenever you summon an SSR unit, even if they're not already 6 stars, even if they're off-banner. You can then use that token to trade 50 shards of one of the on-banner heroes, whether you've just summoned a dupe or whether you've farmed in advance, for 60 shards of the other on-banner hero, which is enough to summon them from scratch. Pretty sweet, right? These banners both run from July 8th to July 21st. Okay, alright. I mentioned at the end of the last episode that I might need to call in reinforcements to help me with such a grand slam of a banner. So, let's bring in the big guns to talk about Luna and Dieharte, and then I should be recovered enough to talk about Rozalia and Werner afterwards. Hey everyone, sorry it's just me again, recording this on my phone from the beach, so no sweet editing or noise reduction. I had a sweet collab booked for you, but they couldn't put together a recording in time. I only gave them 2 weeks notice, so that's my bad. Maybe next time. Anyway, not here to put them on blast. Instead, I'll just give you a quick beach summary, rough as sand. Luna is a member of Origins of Light, Princess Alliance, and Strategic Masters. She has a faction buff for Princess Alliance. She's still one of the meta units for Needhog. She unlocks the defensive bond for Claret and the attack bond for Lewin. She's coming back in October on a banner alongside Bozel and Liana. Dieharte is a member of Protagonists, Origins of Light, and Meteor Strike. He has a faction buff for Origins of Light. He's a bond unlocking machine. He unlocks the attack bonds for Dios, Freya, Gerald and Layla, Kirikaze, Lifany, Luna, Silverwolf, Sophia, and Tiaras. Unfortunately, Dieharte isn't appearing on the upcoming banner schedule. There, that only took a couple of minutes. Anyway, back to you, Studio Kong. Hopefully the rumors about Dieharte getting his new SP class at the game's 3rd anniversary end up being true, because it would be great to see him with a modern talent that actually synergizes with the rest of his kit. Alright, so let's carry on with Rozalia. Rozalia is a highly mobile DPS who gets a boost to her attack and defense at high hit points. She can build up to 3 stacks of bonus damage and damage reduction fairly easily, and has a nice spread of soldiers who get a 40% attack boost through her bonds. Her 3-cost skill is a single target attack that has a friendly beacon side effect. When you attack someone with this skill, it plants a sword on that tile, and the sword radiates stat boosts and healing to nearby allies, and it lets Rozalia move again. She has a lot of skills that let her move again before attacking, actually, giving her a great range right out of the gate. She's a member of Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, and Grenier, and Princess Alliance, buffed by Luna, Shelfaniel, and Christiane. For bonds, she unlocks the attack bonds for Mariel and Suzette, and the defensive bond for Bannermate Werner. For her own bonds, she needs Maya for her defensive bond and Ares for her attack bond. As for content, in PvE, she's on faction for Leviar and Scylla in the Eternal Temple, and Hugin and Munin in Ancient Beckoning, but her Ancient Beckonings of choice are Needhog and Sleipnir. She's a top meta pick for both, largely thanks to her OP sword beacons giving Rosenseal the headroom required to solo heal. Her sword heals don't ramp with star level either, which is how I was able to get a 4th place score on Sleipnir with mine at 3 stars. Bananas. In PvP, her huge mobility and her ability to reduce the target's range by 1 with her 3C means you'll often see her making a cross-map opening salvo for rush teams. For availability, Rozalia is slated to return in late November on a raid-up banner alongside the Light of Genesis. Now moving on to Werner, Werner is all about mobility. His talent is nice and straightforward. After taking action, he boosts the mobility of up to 4 nearby allies by 1, and lets them move through 1 defensive tile with no penalty. His 3C is a neat little active skill that switches in between combat modes, each with a different set of buffs. He has a speed mode, which gives him 3 more mobility and lets him attack first if he moves 4 tiles. This is his most common disposition by far. He also has an attack mode, which just gives him up to plus 15% damage dealt depending on how far he moves before combat, and he has a defensive mode, reducing his damage taken, making it so he can't be displaced, boosting his counterattack damage, and healing him after he takes action. On top of all this, no matter what mode you pick, you gain an additional permanent plus 1 mobility and plus 5% to all non-HP stats, stackable up to 3 times. Finally, he has an attack that ignores guard if you move 10 tiles before combat, making him a kind of long-range pseudo-assassin. He's a member of Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and Hilda, and Empire's Honor, buffed by Bernhardt, Leon, Lance, and Rosenseal. For bonds, he unlocks the defensive bond for Hilda, and she's a tank, so that's an important one. For his own bonds, he needs Bannermate Rozalia for his defensive bond and Leon for his attack bond. For content, in PvE, he's on faction for Valkyrie in the Eternal Temple and Sleipnir in Ancient Beckoning. Of course, being able to increase your whole team's maneuverability can also make him a nice help in general purpose PvE, but he's not really essential. In PvP, mobility is king, and speaking of kings, Bernhardt's return to action is a big boost to Empire heroes like Werner. He can pretty much cover the entire map, and with a guard-ignoring skill in his back pocket, even if it's not the most powerful one, he still poses a threat that can't be ignored. For availability, Werner is coming back in early December on a Destiny banner with Mariel and Patzer. Okay, so here's the quick and dirty. We have Luna, who's a mobile DPS and team support unit. She carries a faction buff for Princess Alliance, and she unlocks the defensive bond for Claret and the attack bond for Lewin. We have Dieharte, who's kind of an assassin, kind of a DPS who's in an awkward spot right now. He carries a faction buff for Origins of Light, and he unlocks the attack bonds for Dios, Freya, Gerald and Layla, Kirikaze, Lifney, Luna, Silverwolf, Sophia, and Tiaras. Then we have Rozalia, who's a mobile DPS with stat-boosting beacons. She unlocks the attack bonds for Mariel and Suzette, and the defensive bond for Werner, and she's a meta pick for Needhog and Sleipnir. Finally, we have Werner, who's a highly mobile DPS with a guard-ignoring attack. He unlocks the defensive bond for Hilda. And finally, just my usual note about upcoming banners. Next week, we should be getting a new Destiny banner featuring Young Jessica, the Light of Genesis, and Akka. The week after that, we're scheduled to get a whopping 3 banners. 1 new raid-up banner featuring Mariel and Brenda, and 2 recurring Destiny banners featuring Landius, Yulia, Jugler, Gerald and Layla, the Knight of Mystery, and Ilusha. Wow, if that really happens, they're really trying to drain our vouchers before the Sanada and Kaiura crossover banner comes out. Stay strong, my friends. Alright, so that's it for this episode. I hope you found this video and these summaries helpful. Let me know in the comments if you plan on summoning on either of these banners, and more importantly, what are your trade-in schemes? Did you farm shards in advance? The generous mechanics of these banners make them similar to Destiny banners in terms of how much control you have over what you pull, so I definitely want to hear how you all did. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks, of course, to our Langrisser tier channel members Levitt, Derek Gunderson, Kyle Greer-Brown, William Householder, and Kate Soon. Thanks as well to all of our Gold tier members for your generous support.